Welcome back, everyone, to the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Knack, and I'm joined by two people who go above and beyond week in and week out to make this show possible. That's Raj and Fab. Our Monday episode dives into the biggest winners and losers from the Week 11 action, plus our key waiver ads for Week 12. And with fantasy trade deadline approaching for most leagues, we're also bringing you a loaded trade target segment to help you decide who to buy and to sell. If you've listened to us and benefited from our advice, please help the Bush League Huddle continue to grow. Like, follow, share, subscribe, whatever you can do, and check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and catch the pod, on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. But real quick, everyone, I have a serious question to ask. Ever wonder where the player projections come from? Well, you don't have to ask anymore. Introducing League Champ, the easy to use tool that enables users to turn their players into rankings and projections. With in-depth analytics and injury analysis and weekly floor and ceiling ranks, you'll never miss a beat this fantasy season. Download League Champ today at the App Store or Google Play, and also check their podcast available now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Well, guys, without further ado, let's break down our winners and losers for Week 11. Let's start off with Raj. Who do you got?
Was there ever any doubt, boys? Was there really ever any doubt? Jaxon Smith-Njigba has finally arrived as a wide receiver too.
Njigba's in Paris.
I mean, there was a doubt. There was a doubt. There was a doubt for a little bit there.
For those of you who don't know, that's honestly, that's Roger's handle for our fantasy football
I'm
league.
pot committed to the handle. I'm rostering him just so I can keep that name. But seriously, yesterday's performance from JSN, 10 catches, 110 yards, I felt was even more telling than his 37-point outburst against the Rams, where he had like 170 yards and 2 TDs, because it came against a better defense in the 49ers. And even more importantly, it came with DK Metcalf back. And I talked a little bit last week about kind of the yards per route run metrics when Jaxon Smith-Njigba JSN is with and without DK Metcalf. And he was pretty much at 1 yard per route run without him. And with him. And then since even the last game, he was at 3 yards per route run. So what's interesting with that is overall, he's on pace for 100 catches, like low key, amazing season so far.
Wow,
He got
Great,
four passes on 5 targets on third downs, all conversions. I mentioned the 3.14 yards per route run. He's been above 3 since the last 3 games, and he was still above 3 while DK Metcalf is there. So that means that they're utilizing him a little bit more on the downfield routes, even with DK Metcalf there. 34% target share, 97% route participation. To me, those are all high-end WR2 metrics. And again, I think we were all skeptical during the season. I know, Knack, you weren't sure about it. You were still thinking, hey, Tyler Lockett is going to be a big part of the equation for them. And obviously, DK Metcalf, we know what he can do. But I think after the Rams game and the fact that Metcalf is back, we really need to see it again. And I think we saw it. And I think he has a WR2 trajectory for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I mentioned he's probably going to come on more towards the second half of the year. I was more scared of having him in your lineups week in and week out at the beginning of the year. Yes, because Lockett is there, but I think Lockett has become that afterthought now in that offense. It's really run it with Kenneth Walker and then find either DK or JSN. And to your point, definitely WR2 trajectory with high end. Low end wide receiver 1 numbers on a week in and week out basis. So I think he's for sure top 12 both weeks, right? For sure last week, week 10 with 37 points, he was probably number 1 or close.
He was the number 1 fantasy player.
Yes.
Yeah.
This week, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
The week where he had the 37 points, he was number 1, and then I think this week he's at least top 10 in wide receivers. So it's really, and again, everyone.
Wasn't it? Oh no, Chase was this week. It was Thursday.
Regardless, he was.
Chase was last week. I know from experience. Chase was last week. Yes, I was on the receiving end of that game. Yeah, a lot of fun.
I think maybe just one more thing to add with this for maybe dynasty purposes. DK Metcalf, the Seahawks have an out with him in 2025 where his dead cap goes from 36 million to 21 million. I could see him as a guy who wants a contract extension at some point, and I think personally watching Metcalf, he just doesn't feel as refined of a receiver, and I could see them maybe looking to either deal him or getting out of that contract. So it would mean an even bigger target share for JSN down the road.
Just a quick note: his 37-point outbreak was in week 9. Last week it was Jamar Chase that had the 54 bomb to ruin my weekend.
Yeah, week 10.
That the 34% target share is huge for JSN. I think that was the most telling stat in my opinion. Raj, you mentioned DK has an out next year. What about Lockett? Is he under contract? Do we know?
Let me check.
Because he's getting along in the tooth, eh? Like
he's getting
Lockett, like I know every single year he always sticks around and no one gives him any respect and all that stuff. But you have to figure that the tide is going to have to turn. I think now with JSN finally coming on.
He's a UFA.
He is under contract. He's UFA 2026.
Yeah, and he has an out. He has a $4 million dead cap, which is basically nothing. So I think
he's
is
not with the team next year.
Yeah, he's not with the team next year.
And isn't he like 32?
33, 32, exactly.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Raj. Fab, who was your winner this week?
Jauan Jennings. He's coming off another monster game of 25.1 fantasy points for 10 receptions on 91 yards and 1 touchdown on 11 targets, where he was the focal point of the passing game with Kittle and Aiyuk out. And he also out-targeted Debo 11-7. I think it's time to say that Jauan Jennings is what we all wanted Brandon Aiyuk to be in 2024, maybe even better.
Fair.
Just to put things into context as to how great Jauan Jennings has been, he's averaging more fantasy points per route run than Justin Jefferson. Yes, it's a very small amount of sample size, but it's still very important to have a very nice comparable like that. In the 3 games as a full-time player, Jennings has a target share of 40%, 32%, and 39%. He's averaging 29.3 fantasy points in those games. He's also third in yards per route run behind Nico Collins and Justin Jefferson. So he's in some pretty high-end company there with all these stats and metrics that I just said, right? He's a monster. Purdy was looking for him early and often, especially on third downs all game this past Sunday. He routinely converted even while draped by 4 defenders. I don't know if you guys saw that play where he caught it on third down and he had to go like 4 yards, and therefore the Seahawks got. Anyways, he's great on contested catches. He's a solid route runner, high catch percentage, and just an overall great wide receiver. He needs to be 100% rostered and is easily a high-end wide receiver too for the rest of the season. We're reading a lot of comps on this guy, and he filled in. Obviously, I think it was Shanahan that was saying he's going to be playing the X role for the rest of the season, which is Brandon Aiyuk's role. And this is really what you would expect from Brandon Aiyuk last year when he finished as wide receiver 15 on the season. So I kind of like, similar to Roger's point there, I kind of wanted to see him do this with Debo in the lineup. I know Kittle was out, but even last game too, when everybody was the game previous to this one, when it was pretty much a full roster that was out there, he still caught 7 balls on 11 targets for 93 yards, and Kittle and Debo was playing. I think it's just really good to see. And if you have him on your roster, you're very, very happy for the rest of the season.
Fab, do you think this is so? Like, if we don't think it's a flash in the pan, are you someone who would hold Jauan Jennings if you have him, or would you try to sell high on him to get someone like, I don't know, like a T. Higgins?
I wouldn't want T. Higgins. I have Jauan Jennings. And right now with the way that he's performing, you're obviously very high on him. You want a top 15 wide receiver or somewhere along the lines of a top 15 running back on the way back. You might not necessarily get that price for him, but at the same time, he's in that offense and he's playing well within the role that's designed for him, or rather designed for Aiyuk. He's really excelling in that role. So if you want to sell him, you can. You're going to have to ask for a high price, but you might not necessarily get people paying for it.
I think I'm going to go the other way. I would definitely sell high on Jauan Jennings. For sure, it looks good. Back-to-back games with 11 targets, and he's put up some monster numbers. I don't think CMC is at full CMC yet, and I think we saw that a bit yesterday. Once he does ramp up, Kittle comes back. Also, Purcell did not have a target yesterday. I just think that this is the time now. He's put on the show. It's 2 straight weeks. I would try to sell. And you're saying no on the T Higgins factor. If I can get a guy like T Higgins for Jauan Jennings, I think I'm going after him. He just came back from that injury and looked really good. Scored a TD. I think he had 8 catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Um, I just think there is a lot of mouths to feed in San Fran, and I think it will come. It may come back to bite you come playoff time when you're depending on him to be a wide receiver too,
Yeah, so T had went 9 for 148 and a
or
touchdown yesterday.
148 and
He put
touchdown.
up like about 30 points. I get what you're saying. I do, but to your point about like CMC not being there, not being at full strength. Last year the offense was humming with all those pieces there. Brandon Aiyuk still turned out wide receiver 15 on the year, and that was with, full health across the board, right? So for me, it's not really an issue of CMC being there or not. If anything, it opens up a little bit more opportunities for Jauan Jennings, just because they have to focus on other offensive pieces as well. I don't know, the 49ers, when they're a full team and they're full slate, like the offense it can sustain this many people. Um, I don't know. I disagree. If I have Jauan Jennings right now, I'm fine. Okay, you want to talk about T Higgins? We can talk about T Higgins, but like for the most part, like he's a high end wide receiver too for the rest of the season for me, and I'm
This
standing pat.
this is a downfield offense, and this offense works when they have an X receiver who can move downfield, which is basically what Jennings is doing in the Ayuk role. So I think the hits are going to come out. It's going to be Debo or Purcell, whatever you say his name.
He didn't
Those are
get
the
it.
guys who. Yeah,
Sorry, didn't
Purcell didn't have any catches,
yeah.
and
Didn't
Debo
have a
is right now
target.
is a bit player, man. He is like, I don't know what's going on with Debo, but he looks like the one that's
I think
completely.
he's uninterested, man. I think he's just reached. He knows he's probably gone next year too, and now with the record the way it is, um, where it's not looking good to get to the Super Bowl and potentially win one. I think he's probably like, you know what, I'm looking at next year, and just seems really uninterested. Starting fights with long snappers and all this garbage. Like I think he's just not in it.
Trade target.
Yep.
Let's move along. I'll quickly go into my winner or winners for the week. So basically, I'm gonna choose the QBs that called game in the afternoon windows. So Bills were up by 2 points with under 3 minutes remaining, 4th and 2 on the KC 26-yard line. They could have kicked the field goal to go up by 5, but finally a smart coach that plays the way you're supposed to play and go for the win, except for and not to lose. The offense stayed out. Josh Allen scored on a 26-yard TD run and called game. Monster run at the end of that game. You saw how fired up he was, and I think that's the way to play the Kansas City Chiefs. So they basically went up by 9, and in my opinion, brought himself back up into the MVP conversation. I know that Lamar was kind of running away with it for a while, but I think there's a few contenders that potentially jumped back into the race. And he's been doing it with no receivers really, right? Like there's the receivers that have been banged up. I went to go trade for Cooper, but he, after that first game he scored, he's been relatively quiet. The rookie's been injured, Coleman's been injured. Curtis Samuel finally caught a touchdown pass, but like where has he really been? Shakir has been really good too, but lack of the TD production, so that's kind of been weird. So and he's cleaned up his turnovers, so he's not leading the league in turnovers anymore, and he's taking care of the ball. And there was one play very noticeable where in maybe last year would have maybe forced it in the red zone, but threw it out of the end zone and actually just throwing the ball away now and just being smart with the football. So um, yeah, definitely like what I'm seeing with Josh Allen in that regard. Then you have the Seattle Seahawks back to that game, who were also down by 4 with 2 minutes left, and Geno marched them down the field with an impressive 12-play, 80-yard drive and finished off with a 13-yard TD run and called game with 12 seconds remaining. That was as impressive as I've seen Geno Smith, I think, all season, that one drive. And he looked really, really amazing in a game that they needed to win to stay in the race. So I think that was excellent. Definitely a big winner for me this week.
He plays with fire, man. Every game there's like 5 balls, 3 to 5 balls, like those should be picked off.
Yeah.
Nuts,
But he
man.
made some nice throws on that
Yeah,
drive and some nice
you guys know how
runs
I
as
feel about
well.
Geno.
And then exactly. I
I love
know that
Geno, man.
I
I
know
love the
you
way he
love
plays.
Geno. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a very good. And then one last QB
Wait,
to
Knack, I
highlight.
have one more question.
Sure, sure.
Back to the Bills Chiefs. Really important question. Who are you rooting for?
Who was I rooting for?
Yeah,
I was rooting for points, man. I was just
let's
rooting
creep.
for
Come on,
points,
man.
really.
We know how you
No,
feel about Mahomes and Allen.
Honestly,
no.
I just love both those QBs. Number one, I just love both. I honestly, I'm one of the people. I know I'm probably like the in the minority here, but
That's
I
a
would
cop
love
out
to.
response right there.
I would
That's a cop
love
out
to see the
response.
Chiefs three-peat because it's
Oh,
never
I
been
want
seen,
to.
right? Like
I
Yeah,
was
for
always
I'd
rooting
sure.
for
love to see
Jordan's
For
it.
Bulls.
sure.
I was always rooting for Jordan's Bulls. So I want to see them
Yeah.
three-peat, and I don't want to see them win it anymore. That's it.
Yeah, it's going to be again a four after that is just unheard of, but
Yeah.
three would be really cool to see. But
Yeah.
honestly, I honestly when I watch these games, I love seeing points. There was the one that they had that finished I think 28-24 not too long ago. I think that was one of my favorite games, and it just kept going back and forth. Like those games are just so exciting to watch. I just
They are.
love that type of football with two
Mhm.
amazing QBs playing each other. Um, and yeah, quickly, one last QB to highlight is Justin Herbert. He's gone real under the radar and quietly having an MVP type season. He has the Chargers now sitting at 7-3. So I ask you, Raj, should he be in the MVP conversation along Lamar and Allen?
I think he should. I think he definitely should. The weapons we all kind of poo-pooed on during the offseason, and I think he's benefited from Harbaugh being the coach. My biggest thing with Herbert is that he's big game hunting this year. In previous years, he was his highest career yards per attempt was he's getting his highest career yards per attempt at 8 right now. He's typically been in the 6 yards per attempt, and even his he's having his highest career air yards right now at 9. So he is throwing it down the field. He is trusting McConkey and Quentin Johnson. And the biggest thing of all that we didn't really notice in the past was his rushing ability. He's averaging 37 rushing yards per game.
Yeah,
So
that's
I think there's a lot
That's
of
impressive.
teams that are and there was a report, there was a lot of teams that are regretting not hiring Jim Harbaugh, which like why wouldn't you not go after him?
yeah.
But I think
I
he's
don't know
brought
why.
the best out of Justin Herbert, and he should definitely be at least in the conversation for MVP.
Think he's brought the best out of that whole team. We were talking last year how that team was in trouble, and then how we were speaking about they lost all their risk. They lost Keenan Allen, they lost Mike Williams, they lost Eckler. What are they going to do offensively? And I don't know, man. He's got that team humming. So definitely one to watch in the in the NFL this year,
Yeah,
in the playoff hunt as well. So and just one last special mention to the NFL scheduling team for a great slate of games in week 11. This was
it's
a
fantastic.
fun week of football, man. There was a
It's
lot of
great.
big games and a lot of fun games. So kudos to the NFL on that. Raj, what about your loser of the week?
My loser of the week is Kirk Cousins when he's not facing the Bucks. Plain and simple, he's been an average QB this season. So in games against the Bucks, he has a 130 QB rating, 8 TDs, 1 INT. He's averaging 32 fantasy points in those games, 9 yards per attempt. In games not versus the Bucks, 88 QB rating, 8 TDs, 9 TDs, 8 INTs, 7.4 yards per attempt, averaging 10.5 fantasy points, and he has 10 fumbles.
Oh,
Fab, who do we know who fumbles more than anyone in the league?
Can
He
we
just
can
got
we get a
benched.
moment of silence, please, for Daniel Jones? Can we get a moment of silence for the benching of Daniel Jones?
and moments up.
Moment of silence done. But this is Daniel Jones level football. So the Falcons have only reached the red zone 4 times in the past 2 weeks. And back to Cousins, 40% of his fantasy points came in 2 games. He's a borderline QB3 in 2 QB leagues. He's actually QB 34 in the past 3 games. And I think he's 100% unstartable in 1 QB leagues.
Oh, yeah.
So the Falcons get a much needed bye next week, and then they face the Chargers and the Vikings, and we know how good those defenses are playing. So for me, unless there's an injury, look, there's like 0 chance you see Michael Penix Jr. this year. But if this trend continues, there's going to be more and more and more whispers next year of, hey, maybe Penix starts to play into this aspect. And ultimately, the ancillary weapons like Drake London, they have to be faded right now because of the way Kirk Cousins is playing. It's just horrible football.
Yeah, you're getting your PPR reports from Drake London, but apart from that, though, like it's been a little bit tough sledding. He's not necessarily giving the returns you would expect to happen. But then again, it's frustrating. It's frustrating being on the receiving end of Kirk Cousins right now when he's not playing the Bucs. I agree. It's tough to watch too. And he doesn't move in the pocket, man. Like I know he has.
Well, I was just gonna say
he's so immobile.
And I feel like Nak, I don't know if you're going there, but it feels Aaron Rodgers-esque.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
it really.
Wow.
Oh my
Both
god!
coming off an Achilles. Man, Achilles, guys, we have to understand is a really brutal injury in general, and then to have it happen to these guys who are 40 years old and 35 years old, like it's just not the same. And just sidebar here for a second. Nico Collins just had a house call.
Stop.
Called back by a holding call by Laramie Tunsil.
I forgot about that game.
Oh, he's so back.
That was an 80-yard
it.
touchdown
He's
catch
so
on the first
back,
play of the game. That was insane. That was insane. Yeah, I know. I wanted to get Fab excited.
Because Fab's team has been looking a bit mediocre without Collins. Like,
he still won.
He was talking about how he has such an amazing team. He doesn't need depth.
Who was saying that he has such? We're going to get into this conversation right now.
No, we're going to
talk
move along.
about this.
I think we're going to move along.
Bunch of animals on the podcast.
But Fab, who's your loser of the week?
The Tush Push.
Tush Push.
4 times this season, Saquon Barkley has been tackled at the 1-yard line, and 4 times Jalen Hurts has tush pushed it in on the very next play. Saquon has also been tackled inside the 2-yard line 11 times, and Hurts also has 6 of those TDs. More TDs being vultured out of the hands of Barkley. Barkley would be at 18 rushing touchdowns so far this year, and firmly in the conversation for MVP, at the very least Offensive Player of the Year. How can Barkley's owner be excited when they how can Barkley's owners get excited when they get to the 1-yard line or the 2 because the ball ain't going to him anyways? The tush push sucks. I never liked it. Yes, it's efficient, but from a fantasy perspective, it hurts, pun intended, Barkley's value, and come fantasy playoffs, those points can be detrimental to your matchup outcomes. I get that the tush push works. I get it. It works. I get that it works, but Hurts with the Hurts being there, but give the guy a chance to hit pay dirt after he does all the work and gets you to the 2 or the 1-yard line. And then if he can't get it in, then you do the tush push. It's just frustrating and it's hard to see. And I'm not even a Saquon Barkley owner, but when he gets so close to the goal line and then they hand it off to Hurts and then Hurts, it's frustrating. By the way, this rant was brought to you in part by Kyle Brandt of NFL Network and friend of the podcast. Probably.
Yeah, I don't think Nick Sirianni cares about fantasy football.
I don't care what Nick Sirianni cares about. I don't care. You're missing the point.
I don't think any of the coaches really do.
I don't care. Dude, this is 11.
Did you think I was Roger Goodell and not Roger Emeka when you were saying all that?
And honestly, I don't think there's any issues. I don't think there's any issues with Saquon Barkley's pointage or whatever.
I think. Well, no, the issue is that it could be higher.
So then do better. Get into the end zone. Don't fall at the one.
Here we go. You're missing the point entirely right now. These are
if you were a Hurts owner, you wouldn't be talking this way.
I am a Hurts owner. I am actually. Not in another league. These think about it though. Like
he has 219 points, dude. What are you complaining about?
226 in PPR. He has 13 touchdowns already. Imagine if he had another 10 touchdowns.
You can't say that he would have said he would have had 18 touchdowns. You can't say
4 times he gets stopped on the 1-yard line and they give it to Hurts. 11 times he gets stopped on the 2-yard line. 6 of those goes to Hurts. It's frustrating, man.
Yeah, I had it last year with Swift. It was the worst. It was 100%. Probably the worst thing ever.
So you understand where I'm coming from. It sucks, man. Let the man win MVP. Let him go for Offensive Player of the Year. He
wasn't going to win MVP.
He could honestly, if he had like 23 touchdowns right now, he could be in the conversation for MVP, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Joe Mixon, baby.
And he
Hell
shouldn't
yeah.
have signed with Philadelphia, and he would have had
Actually, it's
a
funny
better
that you
chance.
say that. It's funny that
Guys,
you
Joe
say that
Mixon,
because
45-yard rushing touchdown. I think enough of the.
Yeah, it was nice.
So you see, actually, Joe
no
Mixon
one's talking
gets
right
into
now.
the end zone. He doesn't need no damn.
Here
Doesn't
we
need to
go.
be down at the
Here
one.
we go.
Exactly.
Here we go.
No damn.
We're gonna
tush
move along. I'm gonna
So
quickly mention.
actually, sorry, he has 8 touchdowns, not 13 right now, but still. What about, anyways? If you know in in the contract that he signed with Philly,
Oh, boy.
this is actually very smart. In the contract that he signed with Philly, all of his player performance metrics that like equals bonuses and all that stuff, they're all like yards or total scrimmage yards or whatever. None of them are related to touchdowns because they knew that the tush push was going to be in effect and he would be limited with the touchdown
Did you
upside.
research that just for the tush push, or did it just come on your feed or something?
It came on my feed after Kyle Brown had a nice rant about it. And I was like, you know what? This guy makes sense. It's true. Like, you look at all the times that he could have
So good
hit
on
the
his
pay
agent for
dirt and
that.
all
Then.
that. Like,
Good on his
so
agent for that one.
I'm just shouting out Kyle Brown from NFL Network, who's a friend of the pod, probably. So I'm just putting it out there right now. Anyways, Tush Push sucks. Nick Sirianni sucks. Eagles boo. Move on.
They look good. I'll quickly just mention my loser of the week. It's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. So apart from their skill positions being fantasy studs, can't really argue fantasy wise, but the team sits at 4-7 and virtually now out of playoff contention. They found themselves, in another early hole, being down 24-6 at half. And despite mounting a comeback, it was too little, too late. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And a team with that many stars, like there's no excuse to be 4-7. And Dan Orlovsky actually said today, we're watching an MVP caliber quarterback and a triple crown winning wide receiver be wasted in Cincinnati right now. And I tend to agree. Like I don't know what they're doing. They didn't try to go shore up any defense, any of the holes. They're just being gashed defensively and having to like put everything on Burrow's back to win games. And the defense right now is just atrocious and they look terrible right now. I can't believe they're 4-7.
I think they lead the league in losses within one score or 3 point. Like all their losses are within 3 points,
That's
or like they
coaching.
lead the league in that sense.
Yeah,
That's
because
always on coaching.
they come
Yeah.
back. They always
That's
come back in
always
the
on
third and the
coaching.
second half, right? Because they're always down by a boatload of points.
The loss, they played the Patriots in the first game of the season, right? And like the Patriots are horrible this year. And wasn't that the holdout game Jamar Chase missed because he was
Mhm.
to me that set a really bad precedent, bad omen to lose that first game, and I don't think they recovered since. And I think the problem with this, no, I know the problem with this team is that they're cheap. They're like one of the
Yeah, that's always
cheapest
been
teams in the
known.
league.
Yeah.
Like if you just sign Chase, he gets there week 1, you win that you probably most likely win that game. It makes a huge difference. There would be
But
what
it's going to
5 and
cost them more now. That's what I don't understand.
of
You're
course.
going to have to pay more now. You are
Same thing
paying
with
more
Dallas,
than
dude.
Justin Jefferson right now, 100%, without a doubt.
Well, you remember
He
early in the year we were saying he's not at that level.
he's
I like I
he's showing it this
Jamar
year,
Chase is
he might have
100%
surpassed
level.
CeeDee Lamb because of he's just more
Yeah.
explosive than him.
and
Yeah.
guaranteed he does not play another snap at the end of this year without a contract. There's no way, and I wouldn't if I was him. If I
No,
had to hold out,
100%.
I would definitely hold
Million
out
percent.
next
No, he
year.
should.
Yeah.
Because
Especially if he wins a
you
triple
didn't want to
crown
pay
this
me
year,
this
which he's
year.
well on his
Now
way. Like,
it's gonna cost you more, and too bad. As the good fellows would say, "F you, pay me." You know,
sorry, what did they say?
"F you, pay me." I'm not gonna slip that. Just a quick recap here on some injuries that happened in Week 11. Both running backs for the Raiders were banged up. Zamir White was out with a quad, and Madison with an ankle. Running back Tajee Spears is also in the concussion protocol, so something to monitor this week. Gabe Davis, first reported he was out for the year, and now with I think his meniscus injury. Now they're saying he's like seeking a second opinion, but
No, he's
definitely a
out for the
long-term
season.
injury there. Darnell Mooney hurt his hamstring. We all know how bad those go for wide receivers, so look for him to probably miss a game or two. Lad McConkey also had an AC joint sprain. I don't think it's anything too serious, but something just to monitor. And Isaiah Pacheco did practice in a limited fashion last week. He's expected to be back week 12. We don't know in what capacity. And I think Reed said it's going to depend on his week of practice this week. So something to monitor as if you're a Kareem Hunt owner as well. So on to the fab and waiver wire portion of the pod. Just crazy bye week this week, actually. In week 12, you have the Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Jaguars, Saints, and Jets all on bye. So going to be tough filling up those lineups, but hopefully we could help with some waiver wire pickups. So let's start with you, Raj. Any QBs that look nice, maybe in a 2 QB league to pick up this week, or startable QBs, anyways?
Yeah, I guess it was interesting that it was Tommy DeVito that got the starting nod over Drew Lock. I guess it's for vibes. I guess it's just the familiarity with the offense. But DeVito was not bad last year from a fantasy perspective. In the 8 full games he started, he averaged about 14 fantasy points per game, which is a pretty decent floor. He had that really good game against, I believe, the Packers on Monday Night Football. He had a few games where he rushed from almost 70 yards. So I think DeVito could be an interesting play this year. I still think you have to probably own Drew Lock as well, just in case. Probably don't have enough roster spot to have both, but I think it's a prudent be a prudent action to at least put a flyer on Drew Lock as well if you're in a 2 QB league. But I like DeVito as a decently floor player.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see him having a long leash, but I don't know. I'm not sold on DeVito. I'm just it's just one of those things. It's like I feel like he's gonna have that one good game to maybe start, and then it's just like it's all over. I don't know. I just don't see it as something. I don't see it as something. Personally, I don't think I'd go after him. But Fab,
So
anyone you notice
just
QB
yeah,
wise?
just to answer to the Tommy DeVito thing, I think he only had one game where he threw for 280 yards or even over 200 yards last year when he did start. But of the 6 remaining opponents that the Giants have, 5 of them are in the top 10 of defensive points allowed to quarterbacks. So he has a cakewalk of a matchup for the next 5 of the 6 games, basically. So if you need a spot starter, it could be interesting. And you would assume that because he's throwing to Malik Neighbors this year versus last year, he wasn't. It could be interesting. Just to go back on what Roger said too about why Tommy over Drew Lock, I think it's the vibes 100%. 100% I think it's the vibes. But I don't know. I feel like we have a better chance to win with Drew Lock. So maybe it's a good thing we're starting Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, I think it's partially that too.
Yeah.
Like the raw numbers aren't bad.
That makes more sense.
The
They're
raw
not
numbers
horrible.
aren't bad. And again,
No.
like it was against Green Bay, 10 rushes, 71 yards. He also had a game against New Orleans, 4 rushes, 36 yards. Because so right there, he's liable to get 4 to 5 points per game just on rushing ability. So
yeah,
TBD.
No, and I think he also has a completion percentage of like around 60% or 65%, which is
it feels dirty starting Tommy DeVito. I'm not gonna lie. Like, my God, your QB room is in despair if you're starting Tommy DeVito.
You're starting Tommy DeVito. You're having a chicken cutlet sandwich on Sunday at 1:00 in the afternoon. How are you?
No mention of Gardner Minshew, who had a pretty solid fantasy output versus the second best D versus QBs in Miami. He scored almost 21, just under 21 points. I think he gets he gets Denver this week, so definitely a tough matchup. But I don't know, Minshew mania. I think it might be back.
I think so too. I don't think who's the head coach there, Pierce. I don't think he's very happy about having Gardner Minshew as his quarterback. In the last press conference he had,
but Desmond Ritter is not much better in here.
He's so up and down, Minshew, man. Like,
he is
a roller coaster.
Yeah, he is up and down. But it helps when you have Brock Bowers as a tight end that you can throw to. You know, he's I think he beat the rookie record for most receptions to start their career. It was held by OBJ up until like yesterday at 70, and he has like 71 to start his career, which is ridiculous. Anyways, Bo Nix is owned at 49%, just under the 50% threshold that we that we use to categorize people on this list. If you're listening and Bo Nix is on the waiver wire, 1 QB, 2 QB, super flex league, pick him up, man. The guy got 33 fantasy points this last weekend, and he's been good every single week since like week 4. Like he should win Rookie of the Year. I think he's a front runner. I think we've all spoken about it already, or Offensive Rookie of the Year rather. He's getting it done properly. He looks good. Anyways, pick him up. Don't even. I don't have to go into the details.
Rest of the bank. Go all in chips wise with him.
Yeah, and I do want to mention also Will Levis too. It's 2 games now back to back. He puts up some serious points. Last week it was 21 versus a very good Chargers defense. This week it was, let's call it 18 versus Minnesota. He did have that one long touchdown to, I forget. I'm going to mispronounce his name.
Akine.
Thank you to Westbrook Ikine. That did pad the stats a little bit, but still,
that was your fault, Raj.
Yeah, you gotta tee that up to me, man. Come on.
No, I honestly thought but knowing Fab's memory, I legit thought he forgot.
I knew it was Ikine. Okay. I forgot the Westbrook part. But Will Levis too is another guy I'm looking at, especially in 2 QBs and Superflex leagues. He's been better than advertised. Yes. And again, his rest of season schedule is also very favorable to quarterbacks, so it should be something that you can look into as well.
Awesome. And I know we mentioned just above that both the Raiders running backs were injured. Is there any appetite for Amir Abdullah, Raj?
Not chasing any Raiders backfield. They don't know how to block. And honestly, I don't trust Antonio Pierce with like handling any type of committee, whether it's QB committee or running back committee. I don't trust him. I don't trust this team. So I wouldn't chase Abdullah personally.
Fair. I think I'm right there with you on that one as well. And there's also Roschon Johnson, who had a pretty decent game, 11 points in that backfield. I feel like Swift was there for a while, and now it's kind of like, I don't know, they're going with maybe more of a hot hand. He did get 10 carries, Roschon, and I know he carries a lot more like goal line style work. I think they give him more of the goal line. So any appetite to pick him up? I think he's only 8% owned.
Listen, 10 carries, 33 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 target, 1 reception. He does a very difficult schedule as well for the rest of the season. I think at this point on the year, a lot of these fringe guys that you will want to take a flyer on, I would not. And I think I would be starting to look at your handcuffs and your backups for your starting running backs right now. So
if you're a Swift owner, just pick him up. At that point.
No, for sure. Like that's a very good point as well. Yes.
Yeah, but exactly. But I think we all agree in non-Swift owners, like you're not really chasing Roschon Johnson, right? Yeah. There's a few wide receivers that may still be available on your waiver wire that probably worth a nice add in ahead of week 12. Raj, anything you see you like here?
Alec Pierce is interesting. I think he's had a quietly really solid season, and it was really good to see Anthony Richardson play well. Pierce only had 10.4 points, but he came out of a 18-point game last week, and he's really actually been the downfield threat for Richardson. So I think that one could be an interesting, maybe 5 to 10% of fab, whatever you have left. I've been liking Pierce, how he's fitting in that offense as the downfield threat, because Pittman and Downs are more intermediate passing threats in Shane Steichen's offense.
Yep, I definitely agree. Actually, I feel like Pittman is the guy who's like odd man out there. Oddly, I feel like it's like he's had a weird season. Flacco Richardson, but I feel like he's.
So you guys remember my buddy Ryan, the big Bengals fan? He's Pittman went to USC. Ryan swears by Pittman. He's an absolute beast. He says he doesn't fit that offense, and he doesn't fit an Anthony Richardson type quarterback. So they just paid him, right? I think they gave him like kind of like that WR2 T Higgins, not T Higgins, but like Jalen Waddle type money. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, because it is a weird fit with that offense and that quarterback.
Fab, who do you like?
Quentin Johnson. Typically I go for targets more than I go for touchdowns, so this is a little bit against the grain for me. But ever since they got back, well, ever since he's came back from his injury, he's been doing a lot more vertical threats, which is really his game. And I think it's been working very well with Justin Herbert and that offense right now. Like they kind of have the proper makeup of how to use Lat McConkey, and now they're using Quentin Johnson on much more vertical routes. I was reading up online that he's been just been going house calls the whole way, and it's been working because Justin Herbert can he could definitely spread the field, and like was Roger was mentioning earlier in the episode, how he's been chucking it a lot more and going for those hero balls a lot more, and you're seeing it with Quentin Johnson being the benefactor of that. He wouldn't be a weekly starter for me, obviously, but it would be something to use for bye weeks. And 41% owned, he should be available in your league, or he might be, and it's someone I would definitely take a flyer on and get some depth on my team.
I totally agree, Fab. This offense is not about high volume. It's the most one. I think with the Ravens, one of the most efficient offenses in the league. So they don't need a lot of passing attempts to score big plays or score big touchdowns.
They're facing Baltimore next week. Quentin Johnson can get 3 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Or what's that Randy Moss stat line? 3 receptions, 187 yards.
163 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
That could be Quentin Johnson next week.
I don't know about that extent.
Let's just start comparing Quentin Johnson to Randy Moss. That's
the way to go.
Let's do that.
And there's also funny, actually, was on our list last week. Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah,
I know he has a bye this week, so it's going to be tough, especially with 6 buys, to kind of own one of those players. But the first week was a fluke, and now the second week, well, I don't know.
Yeah. Is it a coincidence or is it a pattern? And
like if you have room and the buys are not killing you, I would maybe have him rostered for sure. It's not a guy you'd have to chase to go after, but I mean, I would definitely roster him if possible, because he did have two really good showings in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I agree.
And then just quickly, tight end. Any appetite on Will Dissly or Zach Ertz?
Dissly, yeah. Definitely Dissly, way more than Zach Ertz, but Dissly has been pretty consistent week in and week out for his targets and for his yards. He was just missing to get into the end zone, which he finally got done this week with 4 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown, with a nice touchdown too, like a nice seam throw right over to him. It was good. No, Will Dissly to me he's coming up the ranks, and if you're hurting at tight end, you don't have one of the top guys. He's something I will go after for sure.
Yeah,
I spent some fab on him too. Yeah.
3 of the past 4 games, he had 9 points, 8 points, and then 18. Actually, if you go further, it's 4 out of the past 5 games. He had 16 points before that 9-point game. So in these streets, man, if you could get 10 points out of your tight end, like that is money.
That's a win.
That's a win.
That's definitely a win. That's definitely a win.
He's not a name brand, so I think people will sleep on him a little bit.
Well, that about wraps up our fab and waiver wire portion. So now we're going to dive into some trade candidates and some players to buy low or sell high. So maybe we'll start with some buy lows. Raj, anyone you want to target to buy low right now?
DeAndre Hopkins, potentially. I know the schedule isn't fantastic for Hopkins, and I know he came out of 2 mediocre games, but he does get the Texans and Browns during the fantasy playoffs, and those are 2 teams that are quite vulnerable against the pass. My only concern is the Juju Smith-Schuster return. It saw his route share and target share decrease a little bit, but I think later on in the year, I'm just going by gut feeling. I'm hoping that they start to utilize him more in preparation for the playoffs with Mahomes. So I thought Hopkins looked fantastic against the Bucks, and I'm hoping that he's now finally ramped up in that offense and they start utilizing him the best way that they can.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said there. Definitely a buy low candidate for sure. I think pretty yeah. Fab, anyone you think buying low on?
Buy low, I think Tyreek Hill, but I think that buy low window might have sailed after this week. He finally got it's back-to-back games now that he has a touchdown, so I don't know how that's going to be factoring in. But he's one guy that I would look into as well. DeAndre Swift is interesting. He's definitely a buy low candidate, but I just don't like his schedule for the rest of the season, and that's what concerns me, even as a buy low. I think I don't think the Bears have a very favorable schedule when it comes to running backs right now.
The
I
thing
know,
with
yeah,
Swift,
he for
sorry,
sure, he
sorry,
for sure got.
just back to Swift quickly. Roshan received 3 of 4 carries inside the 10-yard line, and Swift saw 58% carry share against the Packers in Week 11. That's the lowest since Week
That's the
3.
lowest. Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty low. That yeah, but that's what I'm
So
saying. Roshan, that's what he's seeing more of the goal
yeah,
line, closer to the goal line work. So yeah, I guess like I'm gonna tend to agree there. Anyone you're looking to sell high on, Raj?
maybe Jared Goff. I hate to say it, but it's only the second time he's had more than 32 dropbacks in the year in the season, and like we all know, the Lions are a pure running team. Like we see what they do with David Montgomery, we see what they do with Jahmyr Gibbs, and at any given moment, Goff can just have like a 10 attempt game, and they're handing it off to those two absolute stallion backs. And you're like we saw it a few weeks ago. We saw where he had the 5 pick game. They still won. We saw in the game again, I think against the Titans, he only had like 15 or 18 attempts. So I think this is a good opportunity to piggyback off like an amazing performance that might not happen very often. And you have to start thinking this team is going to start thinking about the playoffs. They might actually stop putting the pedal to the metal at some point. So I'd look to maybe seeing what could be what you could get for Goff, because it's still been an up and down ride, despite the fact that the stats overall have been really really solid.
Yeah, I mean, hard to argue with that. He also comes. He sometimes doesn't even play the fourth quarter at times because they're up so much, and the game is out of reach. So tend to agree with you there. What about you, Fab? Anyone you're looking to sell high on?
If there's any value left as a high, I think it's time to take a long look in the mirror and see what you can get for CD Lamb. You still have the name value there. He's still going to be a target hog, but just within that offense right now, with Cooper Rush being at quarterback, I'm not convinced you're going to be getting. Definitely not going to be getting wide receiver 1 return. You would hope you get maybe wide receiver 2 if he falls into the end zone. But if I can make CeeDee Lamb become someone else's problem, I would. And if the return is good enough, I would definitely look into doing that too.
He has a career 13 points per game in 18 games without Dak Prescott. So I don't know if that
13. That's
window,
what he averages.
yeah, 13 points per game in 18 games without Dak Prescott. So like similar to Tyreek Hill, has that window already passed, or like that's the issue there.
Well, Tyreek right
Yeah,
now is,
it's
yeah, I think like if I can do CD Lamb for Tyreek Hill, I think I would make that trade right off the bat. But
yeah. The Tyreek owners are not making that trade.
no, nor should they, no. It sucks, honestly. And he's a good, I don't know. It's if I have him on one of my rosters and I'm trying to see what I can get for him, and really nobody's biting, and that's the worst part.
You're gonna have to try to catch someone that sees CD Lamb as the name, and maybe you swindle a deal out because right now, obviously, his stock is not at its peak for sure. Uh, but one guy, I think the obvious one to sell high on would be Kareem Hunt. With obviously the news of Pacheco maybe nearing a return, this is probably the time to maybe get rid of Hunt. I mean, as a Pacheco owner, you might want to hold on to him just the same, just to see, if Pacheco does get hurt. But I mean, this is probably the highest point you'll get out of Hunt. There's going to be no more value after this week if Pacheco does play and plays well. So maybe it's someone you want to offload to someone looking for running back health, sees chief running back, and maybe bites.
Nak, what do you think of Najee as a sell high?
Yeah, honestly, he's been having some solid games, but the lack of the end zone obviously scares me for sure. So the lack of points there, and Arthur Smith just can't help himself but get Patterson involved as well as Warren. He really can't help himself. It's a lot less
Fetish.
than it's a lot less than it was in Atlanta. So I'm thankful for that, and I think Warren has been getting involved enough as that change of pace. Like you need some juice in there. So look, if you can trade Najee for something decent, I'm definitely not opposed to that at all.
Sorry, Fab. I just want to he has Philly, Baltimore, and KC during the fantasy playoffs. That is just
Yeah,
like
I was gonna mention
murderers,
that actually. Yeah, I was gonna mention that.
murderers row.
Yeah,
It's not a great,
no,
definitely not a great
definitely not.
fantasy playoff schedule,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, no. Like he's definitely on the sell train for sure. If you can get something for Najee, I'd go for it right away. What else? What are some of the players you're looking to trade for? Who's someone you're really targeting in a trade, Raj?
yeah. He was my love from week 11, but Lad McConkey, third in rookie receiving yards, 24% target share. He just came off another 18-point game, six receptions, 123 yards. Uh, Big play offense. He had two amazing catches from two amazing throws yesterday against the Bengals. So I think he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, and he's a guy that he's like it's a buy high. Like, you're not going to get him for cheap, but I think this is a player who is going to continue to ascend towards the end of the season with the way Herbert is playing.
Yeah, and very, very valuable in PPR formats for sure. Anyone you're targeting, Fab, via trade?
Brees Hall, actually, right now. Like I know he just came off a 31-point
Yeah, bunch chance. Good
bomb of a
luck.
game, but he's on bye this week, which might help your cause. But the reason why I'm saying you should trade for him, he's obviously been very up and down this year, more down than up, especially if that you invested probably a top 5 pick on him this year. But his fantasy playoff schedule, especially in the finals, are fantastic from an RB perspective. And I know we don't like the Jets here, but still something to take note of as well. Like they're a lot of green and nothing to be concerned about as far as red. So yeah, if you can pay up, don't pay too much, but it is definitely somebody I would be targeting for sure.
I need to hear an example of like the type of offer you
Oh,
would
don't pay too much.
like.
What are you gonna pay to? How are you gonna get Brees Hall away from someone?
It's
If
a
you
two for
have a
one for
lot
sure.
of wide receiver depth and you can do one of those like trading from a position of strength for a position of weakness and also giving a running back as well, it's something that I would definitely consider. Like if you can, I can't really think of a one right off the top of my head, but I mean, if like throw in an Aaron Jones who hasn't been playing all that well right now, and with another good wide receiver to get Brees Hall and somebody else on the way back, you're upgrading your running back, even though you're taking a hit at the wide receiver spot, especially during the bye week. And if you can go after a guy who's obviously hurting with 6 teams on bye in week 12,
Hmm.
I would.
Aaron Jones and T Higgins, or like would that get it done?
I think that would get it done for Brees Hall. Oh yeah, yeah.
I,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
If I need help at wide receiver and right now like I need to win for this week for me to even have a chance of making the playoffs and I have Brees Hall on by, yeah, like you got to pull the trigger. Like you got to worry about winning this week, right? But if you're in the position where you can win, where you can give up something now for something later because you're doing well on the roster, then 100% it could pay huge dividends. And we all know how Brees Hall likes to really ramp it up at the end of the season.
That's fair. I'm looking to get my hands on Tyrone Tracy. That schedule looks very, very nice for running backs down the stretch as well. And you figure he's going to be seeing a lot of the football with Tommy DeVito, or even if Drew Lock comes in for the rest of the season. And I think they're going to just want to see what they have from this kid. Can he sustain it, game in and game out? He's looked good so far doing it. So definitely someone I would definitely target if you need running back help.
I'm curious, guys. What would the Giants do if Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito were to both get injured? Like, do you think they're calling up Fab to play QB?
I think Daniel Jones starts,
You
my
really
friend.
think so with the injury guarantee?
What
They
are they
have
going
no
to do?
choice. Yeah, they don't have a
Imagine they
choice.
pick up, I don't know, who the heck is out there? Nathan Peterman to go play. Like, imagine, like that would look really, really. That would look really strange. Like now, like, tell me you're tanking without telling me you're tanking. You know?
Yeah, like what choice did they have? They would have to start Daniel Jones.
Phil Simms.
They start Phil Simms. Yeah, start Cousin Pete. If you're listening to the pod, you can start.
It's their neighbors at QB.
Cousin Pete. Yeah, but I agree with Tracy's been awesome.
Yeah, man.
I know he was distraught after that fumble was it Germany or London? In Germany.
Yeah,
Germany.
Otherwise, he's been fantastic. What a revelation he's been this year.
He was a 5th round pick.
That used to play
Out
wide
of
receiver.
is it Kentucky?
Yeah.
Is it Kentucky?
Purdue.
Excuse me, Purdue. Great. Well, that'll do it for another episode of the Bush League Fantasy Football Podcast. And as always, guys, please rate, follow, and subscribe on all of our socials. And listen to us on your platform of choice. So look out for our Fab and Waiver Wire pickups on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and as well as our Love Hate Week 12 episode tomorrow. So from Raj, Fab, and myself, thank you for your continued support, and see you next time. Cue the music. Wow, I got that in tune with the snap too. That was well done. That was well done.
Joe Mixon, another rushing touchdown.
Yep. Yeah, I think Spiro's done.
He's on Fueg.
He's on fire,
Yeah,
man.
I'm convinced Daniel Jones is not. I don't think they allow him to enter the building again.
So you think? You think he's the emergency number 3?
I was going to ask that question. He must be the emergency number 3.
I'm looking at that. That would be the tell. If he's the emergency QB3, then I think that's the tell.
Malik Neighbors.
Maybe if both of them get injured, like someone else comes in.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Anyways, we'll see. Thanksgiving Day matchup though: Cooper Rush versus Tommy DeVito. Get your popcorn ready. Oh my
god, I was so excited. I have off the day. I was gonna watch football all day, and now that 4:00 snoozer. Like, how are you gonna watch that? See you tomorrow, folks.
Take care, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.